Hey everyone, welcome to Politics and Stuff. This is Ibrahim Abali. This is an international news tour of the week. Two news articles regarding international affairs caught my attention in the past few days. The first is concerned with the BRICS bloc, Brazil, Russia, China, India, and South Africa, and the second is concerned with the military relations between the United States and Russia. First, about the BRICS bloc. There is a BRICS summit which will happen soon in August. There are a few issues about this year's summit. First is the attendance of the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Why is Putin's attendance is an issue? This summit will take place in South Africa, and as a member state of the International Criminal Court, South Africa would theoretically be required to arrest Putin because of an arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court for President Putin on the grounds of war crimes. Putin has not yet confirmed his plans, but the Kremlin only said that Russia would take part at the proper level. There was a precedent that happened in South Africa in 2015 when Omar al-Bashir, then president of Sudan, visited South Africa in 2015 to attend an African Union summit. Al-Bashir was wanted by the International Criminal Court on genocide charges. South Africa did not arrest al-Bashir then, and this caused South Africa problems with the International Criminal Court. And after that incident, South Africa declared its intentions to withdraw from the International Criminal Court, but South Africa did not withdraw. And in the case of Putin now, even if South Africa wants to withdraw from the International Criminal Court now to avoid the Putin situation, it simply can't. South Africa would have to give 12 months notice before the withdrawal. So South Africa would still be required to arrest Putin even if South Africa declared its withdrawal now. What are the available options for South Africa? South Africa is considering switching the place of the upcoming summit to another country, maybe to China or another country of the BRICS that is not a signatory to the International Criminal Court founding treaty. Only Brazil and South Africa are signatories to the International Criminal Court treaty, whereas China, Russia, and India are not. Or South Africa might switch to a virtual summit like what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. Or Putin could just show up in South Africa and it is what it is. What are the consequences for South Africa? If the Russian president shows up in South Africa and is not arrested, this would jeopardize the relations between South Africa and the United States and its Western allies. And relations might be badly impacted. Specifically, that the relations between South Africa and the United States are deteriorating because the United States has accused South Africa of supplying weapons to Russia through a Russian ship under U.S. sanctions in late 2022. The U.S. said that this behavior is not in line with South Africa's stance of neutrality in Russia's war against Ukraine. On the other hand, South Africa said it had not approved any arms shipment to Russia in December 2022, and South Africa denied the US allegation. Another major issue of this year's summit is the expansion process BRICS is planning. The BRICS bloc is considering expanding to include more nations. The BRICS bloc now consists of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and a growing number of countries have expressed interest in joining. And the BRICS proved itself as an alliance which could be a counterweight to the West. The BRICS expansion is a message to the West that there is a new international geopolitical order. Senior officials were present in South Africa in talks on forging closer links with the countries of the BRICS. These countries are Saudi Arabia, Iran, United Arab Emirates, Cuba, Democratic Republic of Congo, Comoros, Gabon, and Kazakhstan. They all sent representatives to South Africa for so-called Friends of BRICS talk. Meanwhile, Egypt, Argentina, Bangladesh, and Indonesia were participating virtually. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is most likely to be the first to join. Saudi Arabia joining BRICS would cement a geopolitical trend while reminding the US of its diminishing influence in the region. With Saudi Arabia joining BRICS' new development bank, that's considered a signal of the bank's interest in challenging the West's monopoly over global financial institutions. The BRICS' new development bank represents an alternative financial structure not dominated by the United States and the West. I mean the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia joining the BRICS would give Saudi Arabia more economic and geopolitical options away from reliance on the United States. And of course, China and Russia are two powerful options in the international arena. Saudi Arabia would bring huge financial weight to the BRICS bloc and its new development bank. It's worthy to mention that the BRICS countries are planning to establish a new reserve currency to substitute the US dollar. This step, while still under review and development, would allow these nations to assert their economic independence and compete with the existing international financial system. Such a step would definitely impact the US dollar and would most probably lead to a decline in demand of the US dollar. The growing influence of the BRICS is a signal of the deteriorating influence of the United States on the global stage. Moving to the second topic of the day, the military relationship between the United States and Russia. 2 days ago, the United States declared that it will stop providing Russia some notification and information required under the New START Arms Control Treaty, including updates on its missiles and launcher locations. What is this New START Treaty about? Why is the United States doing this now? First, what is this treaty about? The treaty is called New START, and New START stands for New Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. The abbreviation is START. It is the only nuclear arms control treaty left between the United States and Russia. The treaty was signed in 2010, and in 2021, Russia and the United States both agreed on a 5-year extension of the treaty, so the current treaty will expire in 2026. START is a treaty that limits the number of deployed strategic nuclear warheads to 1,550. The treaty also limits the number of deployed and non-deployed intercontinental ballistic missiles launchers, submarine-launched ballistic missile launchers, and heavy bombers equipped for nuclear armaments to 800. Without this treaty, there will be no limits on or transparency into the size and composition of the United States and Russia's nuclear arsenal. Why is the treaty important? Under the New START Treaty, both the United States and Russia receive tons of information. This information is about where nuclear missiles, nuclear bombers, and nuclear submarines are located, and what the status of deployment is, and how many warheads are associated with them. The inspectors of both countries get to walk around nuclear bases and see with their own eyes where these nuclear weapons are, and check upon the information that both countries had shared. So what happens if the treaty ends? If the treaty ends, the United States and Russia may enter a new arms race. It's not that there is no arms race now, but at least the ongoing arms race is limited by the treaty. Without the limits of the treaty, both countries will be able to build and deploy more nuclear weapons targeting each other. Both sides could get stuck into a dangerous arms race. Why did the United States declare it will stop sharing information now? In February 2023, Russia suspended its participation in New START. However, it did not withdraw from the treaty and clarified that it would continue to abide by the limits of the treaty. The US declared it will stop sharing information in response to Russia's decision to suspend its participation in the treaty. US and Russian delegations began discussions about a new treaty in 2021, but the discussions stopped after Russia attacked Ukraine in February 2022. The Russian Foreign Ministry issued a statement clarifying that Russia does not intend to breach the treaty on weapons and will continue the practice of notifying the US about missile launches. On the other hand, the US State Department had already declared Russia as not complying with the treaty because of its refusal to allow US inspections of nuclear facilities in Russia. Why would Russia want to suspend its participation in the treaty? In the Ukraine war, in Europe, the United States can hold the Russian heartland at risk by supporting Ukraine with weapons. But Russia cannot hold the US lands at risk without resorting to its strategic nuclear arsenal. Furthermore, Russia argued that the anti-Russian sanctions and restrictions imposed by the United States over the war in Ukraine prevented Russian inspectors from securing the necessary visas and travel arrangements to visit U.S. nuclear weapons facilities, which are subject to the treaty, which gives the United States obvious unilateral advantages. Moreover, according to the Arms Control Association, Russia has serious concerns about the US request to conduct inspections of Russian facilities subject to New START treaty, given that Ukraine has attempted to strike those same facilities with the United States obvious military, technical, information and intelligence assistance. Vladimir Putin also demanded in February that there must be a clear idea for taking the French and UK nuclear arsenals into account before arms control talks would resume. The changing realities dictate that there should be a new treaty, given that China has become a player in the nuclear game. Russia fears that the US will increase its offensive system beyond the New START treaty limits in response to China's growing capabilities. The Russian step of suspending its participation in the treaty should be considered as very much relevant to the war in Ukraine. It might be an attempt from Russia to use the New START treaty card as a leverage against the United States to seize its support for Ukraine. Those were the most important news that caught my attention for the past few days. Thank you for watching. Please follow the page and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you.